of Western New York. And there is Thursday, so we're Thursday in June, there'll be a Pride Alliance blood drive at the Buffalo Western New York chapter. So we do have a couple things already going on. So our plan today is to have some discussion, um, spark some ideas, um, and then from that, we'll take everything that we learned today and we come up with today and kind of put together a plan for what we think we can achieve over the next, say, 12 to 18 months and start to put together some project plans for activities and events. So today it's really just let's get ideas, let's get thinking, get our brains going. Um, and so with that, I want to know, turn the table, let Carrie, our wonderful co-chair, get us started. This really was um, this was their idea to bring Jerry in and to make this happen. So love working with Carrie. So I'm going to hand it over to you. She get us started.
Thank you so much. My name is Carrie. I'm here in the Buffalo area, and I work with our blood drive volunteers in Buffalo and Binghamton. I do use they, them pronouns, or I also use she, her. Most people who have known me for longer than the past few months tend to use she, her for me because that's just how I used to introduce myself, and I don't have a strong preference, so use whatever. I don't really care. But I am also, just like Nicole, really happy to be here. Looking forward to meeting everybody, just learning about how our community is working in all these different spaces throughout Western New York, and really jumping in and educating people about the Red Cross and what we do. And in line with that, Jerry, if you want to get started and introduce yourself and kick everything off, that would be great.
Thank you so much, Carrie. Hello, everyone. Hello, friends. It is so good to be with each of you today. My name is Jerry Dale. I do use the gender neutral pronouns of they, them, their. So let's talk a little bit about pronouns. I always like to have a little bit of an education moment. If you use the wrong pronoun, it's okay. Don't make a big deal out of it. Don't stumble over your words. Just use the correct pronoun the next time that you have the ability to do so. And if you are corrected by someone that says, here are my pronouns, say thank you, I'll do better, and then work to do better. No reason, just lean into the discomfort of it, and it's okay. I would much rather have you make a mistake with safe people like us here at the Red Cross versus whenever you're out in the public and then working about it. So let's just practice using those types of things. My dog wants back in. I'm so sorry. I'll be right back.
Now that many of us work from home, sometimes our pets run our schedules, so we understand.
And he's been sick for the last week, so he's like all of a sudden getting back into his jam again. So I have been with the American Red Cross in June will be 29 years. I am the founding co-chair of the Red Cross Pride Resource Group back in 2012. So I have been doing this work for a really, really, really long time. I cannot believe I get to be the National LGBT Engagement Director for Biomed. This is a dream job that I never thought would happen whenever I started working for the Red Cross. It is a joy to be able to continue to spread the good news about the Red Cross, to reintroduce ourselves to the LGBTQ plus community after the FDA finally lifted the ban in 2023. I'm going to get into a whole presentation and discussion about all of that. But one of the things that I love about this job is we get to engage this community in ways that they want to be engaged. We get to adapt to this community. And we have two people focused on this work full time in the organization, myself as the director and Mario Brown as our national partnership manager. Mario is the one working with organizations like the HRC, It Gets Better, GLAD, PFLAG, the Gay Pilots Association, and so many more. So Mario was out there trying to secure these national partners that then we can regionally work with their local chapters to do the work to set up these Pride affiliated blood drives. So Mario was like, I can't wait for us to host a blood drive at a drag queen convention. And my first response is, oh my God, that's amazing. I can't wait. And then my QA brain kicked in and I'm like, how are we going to keep the glitter out of the blood supply? And so I was talking about that with some friends, and they're like, there's something there. Like, think on that. And what happened is that turned into my personal mantra, my guiding light. And what I want to share with all of you is let's add your sparkle to the blood supply. All of us can bring our uniqueness, our individuality, our diversity of thought and opinions, and all of that just adds some sparkle to the work that we're doing. And if you speak Spanish, vamos a añadir tus chispitas a la sangre. So all of the work that we're doing in this space, all of the work that we're doing in this space, we're trying to do in English and Spanish, but it's not just regular Spanish because Spanish is a gendered language, very masculinized or feminized. We are working to make it in the gender neutral Spanish so that it speaks to the community in a broader sense because our community is sensitive to that in some ways. So let's do our best work moving forward with that. So you'll see a lot of our publications. If you give it to Spanish-speaking people, they might notice that. So that's a little bit about me and kind of the programs at a high level. So I really love these to be conversational. So before I jump in and go through all of the different elements of the program, what questions are on top of mind? And if you don't have any, that's fine. Just jot them down or chime in at any time during the presentation. This is about helping you all be successful as the regional resource group for the New York area. You all are the only ones in the country doing this right now. I was talking with people in Salt Lake yesterday, and they're like, "We're looking at what if we created a regional resource group?" I'm like, "Perfect. I'll connect you with Western New York after we get them kicked off." So at the national level, we have under the diversity and inclusion department, we have all of the team member resource groups. The very first ones were LGBT, um, African American, and Latino. Those were our first three team member resource groups. And I was the founding co-chair. The LGBT was the affinity group at that time. And I would like to kind of pat that team on the back because we set the gold standard that everybody else then had to follow suit. So we set the bar high, and what I like to say is, of course we did, because you put a queen in charge, we're going to get things done. So I'm just so proud of the work that that group has continued to do. If you aren't a member of that group, you need to go out and join. I'll find Carrie, can you look on the diversity website and look for that link to join the TMRGs? It's one link now for all of the TMRGs and put that in the chat. That would be helpful.
Yeah, I can do that.
And so within that structure, we've continued to expand the number of resource groups that are available. And they're open to both employees and volunteers. So what they provide are like quarterly calls with leadership. When I was in charge, Gail McGovern was our executive champion, and I had lots of individual conversations with the president and CEO of the Red Cross at that time about the work that we were doing. And Gail stood firm in our fundamental principles that this is the right thing for us to be doing. And Rosie McGillen now is the executive champion, and she is following suit like Gail did. So there's a lot of great. So within that structure, we've got the executive champion, somebody at that C-suite level supporting the work. Then we've got executive sponsors, so people from different lines of service that the co-chair of the board can touch base with the rest of the organization on what do we need to be working on. And then the co-chair has the steering committee that is there. We like our hierarchy, we like our structure. So I just wanted to share a little bit about what the structure of each of the TMRGs look like as we do this. TMRG, Team Member Resource Group. So out of that work, I passed the baton. That group is the one that is trying to, like, how do we go to Pride events and talk about the Red Cross? How do we be present in the community? One of the things that we did early on was review all of our sheltering guidelines to ensure that if we had a transgender client, they would feel safe in our shelters. So we rewrote some of that sheltering doctrines in the very beginning to ensure that that safety and equality happens across our shelters. If their medication got left behind because they had to evacuate immediately, we can work with the doctors to ensure that they get the medication they need, their safety for showers and all of that. So at the TMRG level, it's looking across the entire corporation to see what we can do to make things better, not only for our employees and staff and volunteers, but for the people that we serve as well. So thank you, Carrie, for putting that in the chat. You can click on that link and join any or all of the team member resource groups through that link. So just know that as you all are standing up, you could always reach into that corporate level, that TMRG, for support. Shelby Wells out of Louisiana is the current co-chair of the Pride Resource Group. If you have questions about the resource group, you can email rainbowflag@redcross.org to ask direct questions into that. We do sponsor all of the team member resource groups do oh my gosh, I forgot the name of it, but they're different webinars throughout the year, cultural competency series, those things. And so this year, I'll be hosting the one for Pride in the April timeframe to be able to talk more about what all is happening within the Red Cross at this time. So lots of great opportunities there. So in 2023, the FDA changed the policy for blood donors. And the Pride Resource Group said, we need people to full-time to work on these roles. So the Pride Resource Group really leveraged their effort within the organization to help and lobby to create these two positions. So had it not been for the work of that group, these positions might not have existed. So again, these team member resource groups can have a long-lasting, profound effect on the organization and the communities that which we serve. So you all do have great power and influence within your region. So think boldly and courageously and walk into this work with the courage of your convictions, as one of my bosses used to say. You have tons of resources here at your fingertips. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to Rainbow Flag. There are lots of ways to help. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to jump into a presentation to talk a little bit about all of the different work that we're doing in the blood area for Biomed. If I can move this screen, there we go. So the thing I love most about this work is it's thinking about going into presentation mode. There we go. Oops. I hope you all saw that real quick. So I love the imagery that our community is able to give us. So I always want to just highlight the importance of taking your communicators with you to different events to capture these beautiful images with the American Red Cross and the community. So my work is part of a larger diverse donor program within Biomed. So we have the Sickle Cell Initiative, we have the Latino Engagement Initiative, and the LGBTQ plus work. All of these are here to help support and turn around our declining donor base. We've lost a tremendous amount of donors over the last decade. And so we're really looking at how can we build more capability within our blood donor base so that our blood donor base represents more fully the communities in which we serve. Sickle cell anemia is a very painful disease where it changes the shapes of your red blood cells and causes chronic pains and issues. Typically affects the African American and Latino community, but anyone can get sickle cell disease. It is an inherited disease. It's not a disease that you catch like COVID or the cold. Latino engagement has the highest amount of O blood genetically compared to other diverse communities. And so O blood is desperately needed within the blood collection system. So we're working to educate the Latino community about blood donation and how they can positively affect the world. The LGBTQ plus engagement initiative came out of a regulatory change, and we're going to dive into that as we go forward. So, a bit of background: the in 1983, the FDA implemented a lifetime ban for men that have had sex with men and women who had had sex with a man who had had sex with a man. Because they were seeing that HIV/AIDS at that time was predominantly affecting this community. And so they put in a lifetime deferral because HIV testing didn't exist at the time, and they were doing everything they can to protect the safety of the blood supply. So from 1983 to 2015, that was the policy. Um, so in 2015, the FDA changed it from a lifetime deferral to a 12-month deferral. So basically, you had to abstain from sex for 12 months to donate blood. Not a huge change for the MSM community, but it did open up to people who were in either sexless relationships or their partners had died, a small trickle. But 2015 changed everything for our transgender donors because before 2015, if you identified as transgender, you had to answer both male and female health history questions, which was almost automatically a deferral. So they changed it to gender as self-identified. And so now we can begin to include more transgender donors in the blood supply as well. 2015 also was the launch of redcrossblood.org/LGBTQ. I decided that we really need a platform for us to be able to engage the community in a public facing way. So it was the first public facing website from a blood collection agency to talk openly and honestly about blood donation to that community. Again, redcrossblood.org/LGBTQ. 2020, the FDA moved the needle again from a 12-month deferral to a 3-month deferral. And in 2021, during COVID, the FDA funded a study called the ADVANCE study. Before I jump into the ADVANCE study, what I want to say is the Red Cross provided data to the FDA this entire time from 83 to 2021 in the background to show that, look, there is no change to the amount of HIV and the blood supply or testing or anything by making these incremental changes. The Red Cross has always been a leader in the data science behind any of these changes with the FDA. We've worked together. So the ADVANCE study was a pilot study between Red Cross, Vitalant, One Blood, the FDA, and local community centers. The Red Cross hosted 3 sites in DC, Atlanta, and Los Angeles. We provided nearly 60% of the program participants. And the pilot was, hey, if we allow men that have had sex with men and aren't on PrEP and are all of these things to donate, is there what does it change the risk levels in the blood supply? And the result of the study was there's enough data to say let's eliminate the sexual orientation based policy and move to an individual donor assessment, basically asking everyone the same questions. In August of 2023, the Red Cross implemented this change. All donors are now asked the same sexual health questions. The first question is, have you had new or multiple sexual partners in the last 3 months? And if yes, Did you have anal sex with any of them? So anal sex is the deferral criteria, and it applies to all human beings, regardless of your orientation. Um, they also did add the deferral for medication for PrEP or PEP. PrEP stands for pre-exposure prophylaxis, and PEP stands for post-exposure prophylaxis. These are a class of drugs that um, all of us have taken some kind of PrEP. PrEP is basically a drug that you take to prevent infection from something, whether it's like malaria, if you're going to be traveling and your doctor assigns you malaria pills. Vaccines are a type of PrEP. They're there to help prevent infections before you're exposed, pre-exposure. But they've also become an umbrella term for a class of drugs that prevent HIV. So if you are HIV negative and your doctor prescribes you PrEP, you're 99% effective against getting HIV through sexual contact. These drugs are available to everyone. And if you're sexually active, you might want to talk to your doctors about, is this right for you? Um, but regarding blood donation, it's 3 months waiting period from your last oral dose or 2 years from your last injectable dose. So you can either take it daily as a pill or you can get an injection. Why? Why is this deferral here? And this is the biggest rub that the community has with this right now is, hey, we're doing our part to keep ourselves safe and the community safe. We're HIV negative. We have to be HIV negative to take these. Why can't we donate blood? So the reality is blood tests have a lower limit of what they can detect. And these drugs do such a great job of suppressing any virus that it's below that lower level. So we need you off those drugs in order to ensure patient safety, that there's not a level of HIV in your system that's so low that it can't be detected. So it's complicated, but it's important for us to have this knowledge so that we can appropriately talk about it in the community. So the Red Cross and the FDA really support that you're making those responsible choices. And look, we're always looking at additional research opportunities to help move the dial even more. But we just ask that you don't donate blood if you're on these drugs. And the reason that is we're trying to protect the patient safety. Our overarching strategy in my work, we're looking to engage the LGBTQ plus community where they are. We're going through social media campaigns, which we just launched one this week. I'll share the links. I'm going to flood you all with information, by the way. We're going to Pride events and other LGBT focused events. We just want to be seen as a resource to the community year round, especially at this time and place in history. We're not a brand that just rainbow washes our logo in June. We're here always for the community. We're partnering with LGBT organizations at the national level to build credibility in the community. So we're targeting those in the HRC corporate index first on who can we engage with, who are the best LGBT employers to work with, and corporate allies like T-Mobile. T-Mobile is on that equality list, and all T-Mobile drives in April count towards our initiative because they're a corporate ally. And I'm working hard to provide education internally and externally. How do we ensure that our donors know about these policies and have a good customer experience? How do we help you all have better conversations about PrEP and PEP and other concerns that the community might bring up? And then ensuring that our donor recruitment staff have the appropriate tools to go out and build these relationships in the community from that one Red Cross perspective. So why? What is the data that we're seeing? So far, we've collected 200 units from the community, July through December, and these are the units that we can actually count. We have a post-donation survey that goes out to all donors who opt in, and 526 have selected the LGBT initiative as their number one reason for coming out. 5.5 million US adults identify as LGBTQ, and 20 to 30%, 1 in 5 Gen Z high school students identify as LGBT as well. And in the Red Cross, we have story maps that go out and tell the story of disasters like the wildfires or other kind of disasters, hurricanes. But we also stood one up for the LGBTQ plus blood initiative. Most Red Cross stories get 100,000 views, which is fantastic. The LGBT one has surpassed 1 million views. People are interested in hearing these good news stories. I again want to remind you, if you are working in this community, take your communicators along and that release form and capture their stories and images so that we can update our story map with not only blood donors, but where we are with Pride. You know, we've got to think about this in a very different way. You know, this community has felt left out of our life-saving blood mission for close to 40 years. You know, they might have done it in high school and then been deferred. So now we've got to work to rebuild that relationship. So we need to reintroduce the American Red Cross to this community. We've got to be comfortable having conversations around PrEP, undetectable equals untransmissible, and what that means for the blood supply. Why does Red Cross only identify male and female? Why aren't we talking about our intersex donors? You know, let's get in and have those conversations. And by the way, that's a question planted in your head, so make sure you ask about that later. Um, and so we know it's going to take time to build these, but we've got to approach it from the One Red Cross perspective. We can't just say you may be eligible, donate blood. It is, hey, let's talk about all of the things. Let's make sure you understand what the regulations are. Hey, go visit redcrossblood.org/LGBTQ before you come donate so you're more equipped with the knowledge before you come in. Nobody likes to feel rejected or deferred. So let's make sure that you self-defer before you come in. Lots of resources. I'm going to flood you all with resources. But from the donor recruitment side, you know, the field, there is an LGBT engagement spot now with lots of great information for you to see. Again, the joy that we have at attending different Pride events and how we're building these relationships, it is just so fun to see Red Cross participating in these ways. So our goals for this year and in the future is just continuing our education campaign. 40 years is a long time, and we've got to get out there and make sure the word is out about this. I would like to have 50 plus affiliated drives across the nation this year. You know, it's going to take work, but it is a manual affiliation in BSF. And fixed site people, let's figure out ways that we can more engage the fixed sites in this work as well. Chapter boards. Let's get in front of your boards and talk about this work and see what leads they may have within the community to help your donor recruitment staff reach in different ways. Lean into our national partners. Lean into good news stories. You all in New York do put out a lot of great news stories. Keep up that great work. You know, and then just demonstrating the impact to the data. Just so much work to do. Here's an example of what we were able to do in June of last year. So seeing Red Cross presence at Pride events all around the country. I know you must have had some more in New York other than New York City. You know, let's talk about, you know, we're working hard to try and capture that information. Here is some of the imagery. Brand new t-shirts available for through the blood side of the house on Cotton Images. These are not available on Zorch. So we'll have to work out how do we get more of these shirts and buttons. So all of the buttons and stickers up here, the Pride in Every Drop, these buttons, the square sticker, this banner are all available on Zorch. These are available through Cotton Images, and those in Biomed will understand what that means. There's also this flyer that talks about how the Red Cross has always been present in the community through all of our different lines of service. Here's an example of what you'll see on the story map for blood collections. You can click on any one of these images and hear their story, read their story about why did they come out and donate blood. This was our social media campaign in May of last year. Lots of great influencers coming out and talking positively about the Red Cross. So we just launched a new one, but is there one that you would like to see as you're looking at this? And I will click on it and share sound so you can watch it. Who would you like to hear from?
Can we hear from Nina West?
Sure. Is it going to come? There we go.
Did you know that making blood donations just became much more inclusive? Well, for years, the American Red Cross has worked to change the FDA policy regarding eligibility criteria based on sexual orientation. And now, my friends, it's time to understand history because, yes, at one time, men who had sex with men were 100% not allowed to donate blood. But now, the FDA has set new donor eligibility criteria, and it's based on current medical and scientific data. So basically, questions based on sexual orientation, they've been eliminated from the donor application process. That means you can give right now. There's been quite a few other changes that make it possible also for the LGBTQIA+ community to donate blood. Our community can finally contribute to saving lives. So I encourage you to take action and make a difference by donating blood to the American Red Cross. You really could be saving a friend's life. I'm Nina West, and I approve this message. Give today. Did you?
So that's the first time in history that drag queens had talked positively about the American Red Cross. All of these, except for the old gays, are still available for you to go out and click on. Again, I'll send that resource. And then we did just launch a new campaign this week with 7 new influencers to talk about what's happening. So this is one of our main ways of trying to get the word out to the community about this change. So let's talk a minute about allyship. So I know many of you might consider yourselves allies to the LGBTQ plus community, and I know a lot of us find ourselves to be allied with a lot of different communities. But this quote really just resonates deeply in my heart and humbles me to know that I can always do better. If you claim to be someone's ally, but aren't getting hit by the stones thrown at them, you aren't standing close enough. So I just ask that we find ways to stand closer together in all of the different communities that we work, all of the different people in our lives. We can always do better to be better allies to each other. And what that means is saying, hey, you know, how can I be a better ally to you? Just lean into that vulnerability. You just don't know what you don't know. So lean in and say, I want to have a open conversation. I want to do better at supporting you. Um, a trans friend here in Wyoming, I leaned in and like, what can I do to help make sure you feel safe at this time? And they were just really open and honest and shared, here's what I need. So I just encourage us all to stand closer to each other. And then, as always, there's all kinds of great mission moment videos that we've been putting together to share a little bit about the good news that we're doing in this work. So I'm conscious of time. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and come back to you all. See what questions you have, see what guidance I can provide. What is on your mind? Cone of safety, no question is off limits. Mason.
Yeah, I thank you for presenting, Jerry. I'm Mason. I'm a Western New York fixed site manager. He, him, his are my pronouns. I know we talked about this, and I know that there's a sticker available, and I'd like it, as soon as I could possibly get it. Could we get stickers to put on either the doors or windows of our donation centers to show that we're welcome to that community? Because I know the rainbow flags sticker means a lot to the businesses in Rochester, New York, especially. So I was wondering if I can get stuff like that.
I do have some available. Um, so here's the balance that we need, Mason. I am working on with your fixed site leadership to see what we can and can't do. I know they want a consistent look and feel to all fixed sites, and you are a 10,000% right. If the community sees a rainbow flag on the door, they will stop in. Visibility matters. But I also want to make sure that your staff are prepared for those who might want to have a different conversation about that. So before we do that, we just want to make sure that your leadership is on board and that your staff are prepared if there are questions about why is the Red Cross gone woke, for example.
Yeah, fair enough. I agree. I would also want to point out, I think I mentioned this to you before, Jerry. I know Pride Month is June. Rochester has a deep history with Pride, and our Pride is actually in July.
Yep.
So I want to make sure that we target, not only the Pride Month, but also Rochester's Pride as well as a separate thing.
I am looking to, I want at least 50 Pride events throughout the nation this year. So Red Cross needs to be present in all of our communities. It is not common for Red Cross to go to these types of festivals. So I'm working with my management to ensure that we've got funding in the right places to ensure that that's not a barrier. I love that you all have been doing that for a long time, and I want to continue to support that in ways that we can. But I also want to share, we need to be talking about all 5 lines of service, not just blood. So we want to make sure that our staff are prepared and able to talk about that. And I just got the contract signed for the American Red Cross presence at World Pride in Washington, D.C., June 6th, 7th, and 8th this year. We will be in the festival, a 2-day festival, talking about all 5 lines of service with the biggest booth that they have. And we will have a parade presence of up to 150 marchers, an ERV, and a blood branded vehicle. Red Cross is stepping up as other people are stepping away. And I cannot wait for what's going to happen. Now, there's possible blowback. So I'm meeting with Adrian Alberts and Rosie McGillen and other people in comms to make sure we've got appropriate talking points. But we are stepping up as other sponsors are stepping away.
And here I thought this was all for my birthday on June 7th.
Oh,
The parade's for me, isn't it?
the parade's for you.
Thank you, Jerry. I appreciate the work that you do.
Thank you, Mason. Can you volunteer? We're working out what that looks like. So we are so it's all about budget. How many people can I afford to bring in to house and flights? Hey, if you can get your region to support you coming down and staying, great. We'll figure out how to make that work. We are planning to put in Volunteer Connection different shifts for both the parade and the festival. So there's going to be a lot of interest in doing this, and we need everybody's support. What other questions?
I have one.
Go ahead.
How could we engage with you're talking about like working with corporate partners or community partners, and one idea we'd love to have, Trillium Health is kind of they are Pride in Rochester, and I would love to work with them to do both a blood drive as well as just educational stuff, and have them um really not endorse, but you know what I'm saying, like be
Yep.
supportive of the Red Cross. And there has been, given the history, there hasn't always been a favorable view of the Red Cross. And so do you have advice on how we can start to make those connections, to be able to develop these partnerships with the groups that can really help move us towards being viewed as an organization that's friendly and that's safe, and not as what we've been viewed as?
That is a $64,000 question. And yes, we do. So we have a national partnership with an organization called Centerlink. Centerlink is the parent organizations for a lot of the LGBT Pride centers throughout the nation. So if your Pride Center is a part of Centerlink, then we do have that national level agreement as a way to say, hey, are you a part of Centerlink? Did you know Red Cross has a partnership with your parent organization? Let's begin to have the conversation about, let's reintroduce ourselves to you. Find out, what are the research your center? What are the different activities that they do? Do they have an aging group that you can go talk to? Because, they're the donors that probably have been deferred for most of their life and might be able to give now. Are there Pride sports teams that might be great for our Power Red collections? What about, people who just want to come volunteer? Again, leverage the whole One Red Cross. So but I've got two conversations coming up very soon. One in Albany with so Kevin Coffey and I have been working with one of the centers in Albany to try and get them on board. So people are now saying, can you come talk to these people too? So start the conversation, build the relationship, and say, hey, maybe we can bring Jerry to come talk to your board of directors or concerned group to answer those questions. So I am fully leaning into this. My life has been turned over to this now. Um, but it really is just about, so a way that I think about it is we need to put on our listening ears and our empathetic heart. Just walk in, be prepared for why are you here? Well, we're here because we want to rebuild this relationship, or we want to start a new relationship. We understand the hurt that this policy, the FDA policy caused. We recognize that. And that policy has shifted thanks to the work that we've done with the FDA throughout the years. Let's talk about our shelters and how we work to make them safer spaces for people. You know, again, One Red Cross with empathy, following our humanitarian principles. Um, I've been working to create some brief elevator speeches for donor recruitment staff, but it could be used across the board. Like, how do we even start the conversation? So, any suggestions, ideas, things like that, pass them on because I don't want to build resources just to build resources. I want to build resources that are actually meaningful and useful in the field. Does that help, Nicole?
It does. It does. Thank you.
Who has a question that they're afraid to ask? Oh, there's Ellen.
Well, I'm not really afraid to ask, but I'll go ahead and ask. Hi, Jerry. I'm Ellen.
Hi.
I'm a supervisor of biomed volunteers in both Western and Eastern New York, although I am
Excellent.
physically in Western. So I wanted to ask, and if you don't really know or can't comment, I understand. But like you said, not afraid to ask. In the current I guess say climate of the country, does does senior leadership have any plan to provide extra or ongoing support to their LGBTQ employees?
So here's the information that I have. As Cliff said and leadership said on the meeting on Tuesday, we're not changing anything. We will follow the laws if the laws change, but we are not changing anything in our support. We're not removing any data. We are still encouraging the employee resource groups, etc. What I also know is that the state of Idaho is preparing to ask the Supreme Court to overturn gay marriage. So we know that's coming, that request will happen. So the Red Cross is looking at what would it look like if we had to roll back those policies, and how can we continue to support our LGBT married couples based on what that law says. So Red Cross as a preparation organization, we're preparing for what those chains and laws might look like. But we're going to do our best. We'll always follow the law, and we're going to do our best to make sure that we're providing resources to our staff in that way. So that's a great team member resource, Pride Resource Group kind of work. Like, what free legal resources can we give to our married couples to ensure that they've got their will, they've got their powers of attorney, they've adopted each other's kids, all of the eventualities that could happen. So I'm trying to help that resource group think in those ways as well. Does that?
Yeah, that does help, and I appreciate that. I also appreciate that this is a lot of, there's the unknown is unknown right now. But it's really important to me that the organization think about that. And I just I have, like, personal acquaintances who already at their employers have been told to get rid of everything. And
Yeah,
and
not
it's
us.
very distressing. And I just want to make sure. I guess I was also wanted to say I wanted to make sure that leadership understands that this is a big deal to people. And I think people would be very affected, very personally affected, were things to change. And it's an issue that I think weighs on a lot of people's minds. So that's all I wanted to say.
So my recommendation is don't be afraid to email these concerns to rainbowflag@redcross.org. I need everyone who has a concern about that, because if it's just one voice, it might not get the attention. But if we've got many voices that are concerned about this, that will raise to Adrian Alberts, that will raise to that C-suite. I am raising that. It can't just be my voice, though, that the organization hears.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you for that idea. All right, enough of me. Thank you.
I love it.
I have a question. So, regarding kind of going out into communities and speaking about these initiatives across all lines of service, and to kind of prepare us for doing the same thing here locally, what are some of the questions that you're faced with that are the most difficult to speak about, or that are the most difficult to answer?
Why are you here? We've got to be prepared for that to be our first question. Why are you here? You don't like us. You've discriminated against us for years. Why are you here? So we've got to be able to tackle that. So the PrEP and PEP question will come up a lot, because although these drugs are available to everyone in the world, um, more concentrated in the gay and bisexual community for protection against HIV. So we've got to be able to better understand. And I'll give you all a resource that the AABB has given that really does talk through PrEP and what's the impact of testing and all of that. So less so, but more so too, is undetectable equals untransmissible. U equals U. So for those that don't know, that is a public health campaign that says if you are HIV positive and your viral load is undetectable, you cannot transmit HIV through sexual contact. So the question comes up that if I'm undetectable, why can't I donate blood? If U equals U, why can't I donate blood? So the reality is that it is for sexual contact. That's about a teaspoon of fluid. But we're talking about 215 teaspoons in a pint of blood. That is just exponentially more risk. You're still HIV positive, by the way. We never want to risk our patients, our recipients, of getting something through the blood supply. So because you're still HIV positive, U equals U for sexual contact only, not for blood transfusion. That's another one. Um, then it's just about the different lines of service. Like, hey, let's, you know, you didn't show up whenever my house burned down. Why? You know, but I think more often than not, you'll hear more positive stories about SAF and disaster cycle services and those things. The biggest issue is going to be around make sure we can confidently talk about blood and blood donation. So I'm actually working with training services to develop a volunteer training before you go to Pride for the whole country. So that's an idea that's just in its infancy. But we want to make sure that all of our volunteers and staff, anyone who goes to these public facing events, have a standard toolkit of how do we talk about this. Pride Resource Group is working on a new 2025 Pride guide that kind of talks through, here's our look and feel, here's some talking points, here's some surveys we want you to take before and after, etc. So we're trying to be much better prepared for Pride this year than last year, and each year will continue to get better. But I'm also really interested to hear what other questions you all are getting so we can be prepared to answer those.
Thank you. That sounds like a great resource to have, just like you said, a toolkit to sort of get everybody on the same playing field. I think that will be extremely helpful.
And that resource already exists on the exchange under the Pride Resource Group. We're just revising it right now.
Okay, got it.
So with our last 5 minutes, I just want to applaud you all for standing this up, for leaning in, for being willing to risk something in this crazy world that we live in. But I see in each of you that sparkle that you are adding to not just the blood supply, but the entire American Red Cross. I want to encourage you to leverage me as a resource. If you've got questions, invite me to some of these meetings. Talk to your chapter boards, your blood boards about how else can we engage the community? How can we partner more with your Pride organization? An example is Los Angeles, the LA wildfires. You know, LA region has been at Pride for the last 5 years or more. And then spontaneously, LA Pride said, we recognize the Red Cross as our charity of choice, set up a micro donation site, and are raising thousands of dollars through the LGBTQ plus community to support these events. So the impact of our presence can garner returns. So I'm just so proud of each of you for doing this work. This is just great work that you all are embarking on again. And just know that you do have the full support of the organization. Log into those Pride Resource Group calls to hear the latest and greatest. And we'll work to do our best to keep you all informed as things evolve and change.
Thank you so much, Jerry. That was really great. Learned a lot. And, I think that this gives us a really good foundation to start thinking about what we can do in our region. And I personally feel very proud to be part of the Red Cross, and the fact that the Red Cross is so supportive, especially in these times, and the fact that, now more than ever, we do need to lean in. So I'm very, very encouraged about what we might be able to do. And I think it's never been more important too. So, really appreciate you helping us and giving us something to launch off of. For the group, we will set up the meetings again. We'll send out a invite. So please, we'll start to put together a plan. So please come when you can. We'll have opportunities to get involved, and hopefully we will make a big splash in Western New York. I'm excited.
I recorded this as well, so if you want the recording sent to you, just email Nicole or I. I'll put our emails in the chat. Also email us if you want to get put on our email list. That way we can just keep you up to date. I'm not quite sure going forward if I'm going to email every employee in all of Western New York again, or if I'll just stick to the email list. So we'll kind of see how that goes. But yeah, definitely if you want to sign up for like the calendar invite and stuff, just let us know and we can put you on that. All right. Thank you everybody for being here. I really appreciate it. We're like Nicole said, we're really excited. So.
And then Carrie, I'll probably email you all of the resources that you can send out.
Sounds perfect.
All right. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you, everyone.
Thanks,
And
everyone.
Wonderful to be
Valentine's
back.
Day.
Wonderful
Happy
to be
Valentine's.
back. Bye.